Good morning, everybody. What a beautiful summer day, right, to come together and worship. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than right here where I am right now. And I just want to say I'm excited to listen to our speakers. We have some special speakers today talking about when they were young. I want to thank Fred. Fred and I are worship associates. And we are just a couple minutes before the hour, so we'll let people come in. But we've been sweating bullets. I want to thank Andrea for the live piano music, and Katie's going to help with music. Thank Bill and Clay up in the loft for doing the tech stuff. And thank all of you for coming out this morning. Thanks for being here. I want to also extend a special welcome to our kids. Our kids are going to help us out today. Nick Perry has 3 of the cutest girls, which I've gotten to spend time with. Ava, Stella, and Emmy, and they're going to help us out later in the service, so thank you to them. And do we have any new visitors? First, second time here? We want to extend a special welcome to you, and if you give us your email just back at that table, we can send you what's coming up. So welcome. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for being here. It's been like half a year since I've been up here, so I just wanted to take one quick minute and just say how much I value being a member of this church. And it's not only because of the way it blesses my own life, which is many ways, but I just love the potential we have for, the potential we have for being there for other people that would find a church home with us. Because the people, the families, the kids that walk through our doors just enrich our life so much. And as UUs, we have such a gift to give in the form of acceptance and just sharing our life journey together. So I think our future's bright, and I'm just so excited to be a part of it. All right, so, and I was going to say too, you know, as far as childhood goes, today is a celebration of childhood. And it always strikes me how people remember the stories of when they were young to do with religion. Like we seem to have a really deep groove, that impact in our life as children. So that's just always been fascinating to me. All right, so let's just take a deep breath. I need a deep breath. Ground ourselves, and let's just set an intention to be present here and now, to be a blessing to those around us, and to just know that whatever it is you need right now can be given to you in this hour, set apart from the rest of our busy lives, right? All right, and to start things off then, Fred is going to read a beautiful reading called Give Us the Child Within, and then August, one of our teens, is going to say the words to our chalice and also lead us in our affirmation.
Give us the child who lives within. Give us a child's eyes that we may receive the beauty and freshness of the day like a sunrise. Give us a child's ears that we may hear the music of mythical times. Give us a child's heart that we may be filled with wonder and delight. Give us a child's faith that we may be cured of cynicism. Give us the spirit of a child who's not afraid to need, who is not afraid to love. Amen.
I started with you. Read with me. Come into this circle of community. Come into this sacred space. Bring your whole self. Bring your kindness and compassion. Bring also your sadness and your disappointments. Spirit of love and mystery, help us to recognize the spark of the divine that lives inside each of us. May we know the joy of being together. May we also know that it is okay to cry, it's okay to be afraid, It's okay to be weak. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be human. It's from all these elements that we grow. Please say with me our congregational affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Okay, so one thing we all have in common in this room is we either are children or we have been a child. And isn't childhood such a unique experience? Going from a newborn to a 10-year-old in just one decade, I mean, that season of growth is crazy. And we've all been there. But this is the thing, we're all made up of all the ages that we have ever been, right? The child we were, the teenager we were, the young adult, they are all still a part of us. And children, they're all still a part of us and make us who we are today. There still lives in each one of us a child that has huge innate abilities that we can draw upon, okay? If I had a magic wand, I think it'd be fun to turn everybody into a 5-year-old again. Yeah, I probably would regret it. Can you imagine the chaos? But children do come with such innate abilities that we seem to lose as we get older. They excel with life skills. You know, they're very present. They are very curious. They have simple joy, a sense of wonder, imagination, the ability to trust and love and not need the world to be different all the time, not be in control all the time. They have huge innate ability. And the thing is that we tend to lose this along the way. I feel like as adults, we spend our whole life trying to get back to what we had and were as children. And you know, in most things, we get better with time. But I swear, when it comes to life skills, it seems that we start out at the top and then go down, right? I've got a whole theory about that. It has to do with evolution and survival instincts, but it's the truth. Kids come into this world with better capacity to just live a good life than we do as adults. As adults, we get so carried away by the business of life, right? We get so wrapped up in the state of the world and all our many worries. As adults, it's easy to live in dull, gray days that look one like the other as they go marching by, right? We play the same old tired tapes in our tired minds. That's just the way I think you guys relate. But I'm 55 years old now, and I think it was like I really re-met my inner child when I was maybe 30, maybe 35. And it has made all the difference. This comes about when you ask the question, is this all there is? And then you realize that the outside world is what it is, and it's not going to redesign itself for you. And so instead of looking outside, you look inside, and there you discover there lives a version of yourself that is better equipped for loving this world than the person that you have now become. You discover that the child in you still knows what matters, still knows what makes you happy. And if you're smart and you humble yourself, you invite that part of you to be your guide going forward. The older I get, the more I can see the child in each one of us. And that is a source of fascination to me. I remember when I was younger, an older lady said that, and I didn't know what she meant, and I totally know what she means now. It's just a blur. There is a child in each of us. And I know the healthiest adults are those who appreciate their inner child, who allow their inner child to come out to play on a regular basis, and are still about meeting that child's simple but profound need to be loved, right? So in the spirit of sharing and in the spirit of Claire, I invite you to turn to your neighbor and just share something that you remember about being a child. What it was like, just what you like to do, whatever pops into your mind, just share with your neighbor. And you can talk till the music plays.
just to decide when to ring the bell? Or 5 minutes, decide when to ring the bell, or what?
We'll just have, we won't even bring it, we'll just have the music start this time.
Oh, okay.
And then Katie will do the song.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll go into the.
I'm going to say something right before my, talking about the little child. I read a book by Wright about how they grow old. And when he wrote it was like 90, he was 97 now. And he said, there's two things you need to do. Never lose your inner child and volunteer. So I'll do that before the one week.
What were you like as a kid? Did your dad tell you stories about you? Like it? What did you spend time doing? In Boston? My husband would love you. He grew up on a motorcycle. When he was 10 years old, he got a motorcycle. And he lived pretty young. So it was illegal, but he got away with it. A lot less people, right? Yeah. Very cool. I was going to say, are you going to let your girls ride motorcycles? It's a different world, isn't it? Yeah, I get it. Just a minute, you guys can come up and help us with a meditation game, and I'll just tell you what.
You just stand up there and you. Are we going to sit down? Are we going to sit down for the meditation?
Let's just stand maybe up to the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can kind of be in there more.
Okay.
Do you want to play? Am I just teaching them? Yeah, we can just teach them and then tell me when to come up and help me. Are you going to sing the first tune? I'll just sing it from back here.
So I'm going to teach you all a song, and then we're going to sing it in a round. So it's called Lift Up Your Heart and Rejoice, and it goes, lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Give all the love in your heart a voice. Lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Lift up your heart and rejoice. So we'll sing it twice, and then we'll go into a round 2 times. Okay, thank you. Yes. Lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Give all the love in your heart a voice. Lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Lift up your heart and rejoice. Lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Give all the love in your heart a voice. Lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Lift up your heart and rejoice. Lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Give all your heart and your heart a voice. Lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Lift up your heart and rejoice. Lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Give all the love in your heart a voice. Lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Lift up your heart and rejoice. Lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Give all the love in your heart a voice. Lift up your heart and rejoice, rejoice. Lift up your heart and rejoice. Lift up your heart and rejoice. Thank you, guys.
us all to enter into a time of meditation. And why don't we go ahead and have our kids come sit up here, because they're going to help us right after this meditation. One thing that children have in spades is an imagination, so they are going to do great at this exercise, and we'll see how the rest of us do, right? So everybody, begin by getting comfortable in your chair. Close your eyes for this one so you can concentrate. And first, just take a nice, deep breath. Now imagine with me that a beautiful, soft red mist comes right in through all the windows and floats around us until it fills the whole room. This mist is clean and fresh and smells like roses. Can you smell that? Breathe in this red mist. Red is the color of love, so when you breathe in this mist, you start seeing pictures in your mind of all the people, animals, places that you hold dear to your heart. Let the joy of loving them and being loved just fill you right up. Take one more deep, beautiful breath of red mist and then slowly breathe it all out.
And now the red mist evaporates from the room, and an orange citrusy mist comes down from the ceiling like from trees of an orange grove. Breathe in orange. Orange is the color of vitality. When you breathe orange, it energizes you and fills you with self-confidence, like you can tackle anything that you set out to do. Orange gives us a feeling of power. Breathe orange into every cell of your body, then let it go.
Now a warm yellow vanilla mist comes in through the back door and swirls around us. Breathe in yellow. This mist makes you feel happy. Go ahead and smile. You can't help it. And let that yellow mist permeate and warm every part of your body. Yellow elevates your mood. It takes away all your exhaustion and leaves you feeling good. Take one more full, happy breath of yellow vanilla mist and then let it out.
And now a beautiful green mist rises up from the earth like fresh cut grass. Green is the color of healing. If anything on your body hurts, focus that green mist right to that spot. If there's sadness in your heart, feel the soothing green mist surround that pain, untying it like you would untie a knot. To be human is to suffer sometimes. As we breathe in this green mist, we offer love and healing to ourselves and to all who suffer and feel pain today. Take one more deep breath of green mist and just let it go.
At last of all, blue lavender mist pours into the room like water. This mist smells like fresh water laced with lilacs. Blue color is relaxation, the color of peace and calm. As you breathe in this beautiful blue mist, feel your jaw relax. Feel your other bones in your body relax. Your arms and legs are like a rag doll. Oh, be so relaxed.
But right before we fall asleep, we notice that the blue mist starts rising to the ceiling. And when we look up, all the colors of the rainbow are swirling above our heads in a beautiful display of light and color. Slowly, the colors change back into a stream of white light. This white light comes down and goes through the top of our heads right straight to our hearts. Now our hearts are glowing, filled with all these wonderful, beautiful colors that all they have to offer us. We are filled with so much light and happiness and love that we want to share it with the whole world. Take a few more deep breaths, and when you are ready, open your eyes and return to the room.
So were you kids able to smell all those different colors? I thought that you would be able to, yeah. So can you guys just take a minute since you're up here to just tell us one of the things that you like best about being a kid? And let me snag that from Katie. Tell us your age and then just kind of like what you like best about being a kid.
I'm 8.5.
And tell us your name too, in case
My
somebody
name is
doesn't.
Ava.
And what do you like? Like, what do you like doing when you don't have to go to school?
Going to church.
You like to go to church? Awesome. We love you to come. And how old are you, Emmy?
I'm 3.5.
Awesome.
Wow.
And what do you like to do?
Yeah. I like to go swimming.
Awesome. Oh, that's so fun in the summer when it's so hot. Great. Do you want to hand it to your sister? Thanks, Emmy.
I'm 6.5 and my name's Stella, and I like to do gymnastics.
Gymnastics. Oh, I've seen your gymnastics out on the lawn. You guys are crazy good at that. I don't know how you make your bodies go in those kind of ways. Okay, and these girls have agreed to help Fred with his story. So they are going to hold up, and even their dad said he'd be the giant for us. So, Nick, thank you. And then you were going to do that one. Okay, so when Fred tells you, you can just stand up over here and just hold him really high so everyone can see him. Okay, thanks, guys.
Before I start, something came to me while Janen was talking. Our inner child, I read a book by Dick Van Dyke when he was 90, talking about how you get old, how you stay old. He wrote in his book that you never lose your inner child and volunteer. So that's good for us. But in any case, he's 97 now, so it must be working. UU Minister Robert Fulghum was once put in charge of 80 children ages 8 to 10 while their parents were off doing adult things. He taught the kids a game called Giants, Dwarfs, and Wizards. You hold up your things. There you go.
You can stand up too. Just stand up and hold those up high. Can you hold yours up on the other side? Yeah, just do that.
As the children divided into groups, a small group, and the game involves pitting one group against the other. And you had to decide whether you were a giant, a dwarf, or a wizard. The game involved, as the children divided into groups, a small voice next to the minister said, "Where do the mermaids stand?" There's a mermaid here? Okay. Fulghum was taken aback. Where do the mermaids stand? Yeah, there are no mermaids, he said. Yes, there are. I'm one. She wanted no part of being a giant, wizard, or dwarf. She especially wanted no part of standing by the wall where the losers in the game had to stand. She was a mermaid. She knew that and assumed that the minister must know where the mermaids belonged to. He would have to know, if anybody would. After a long pause, Fulghum knew just what he would say. Why mermaids stand here, right by the king of the sea. Together, side by side, they watched the other kids run around in chaotic frenzy. They are beings that don't fit in boxes, mermaids are. They're not pigeonholed, they don't allow to be pigeonholed. They're beings who make history by daring to be different. They stand by the king of the sea, and also right here by Mr. Fred and Miss Janet.
Thank you, guys. I love that story. Thank you, Fred. Yeah, you guys can. And And thank you for helping us with the pictures, girls. Okay, so for today for Joys and Sorrows, we're going to turn again to our neighbors and just share with one another what's going on in our lives right now, whether good or bad. We'll just give you a few minutes to do that, and then we'll go from there. How long do you think we should give them? How long do you think we should give? And we can continue this discussion in coffee hour, but since we're celebrating childhood today, the song we'll sing in response to our joys and sorrows is one written especially for kids, but it works for adults as well. I have tried this out in the trenches of real life, and I can vouch for it. So in meditation, in our meditation class, we learned that the quickest way to change our mindset from one of fear and anxiety and worry to one of love and expansion and creativity is to wish wellness on ourselves and on others. This is a tool you need in your toolbox. So this is a song to teach kids that very thing, how to wish themselves wellness and others wellness and change their mindset from one of fear to one of love. And the actions are really easy. If the girls want to come up where you have some room to move, and if you don't want to do the actions, you don't have to, but it's kind of fun. So can you girls just face me, and I'll just show you the actions. So it's just, yeah, just stand here in the aisle so you'll have a little bit of room, because I know you'll want to move a little bit. Yeah, and stand up. Good. So all the actions is arm, put your arm out, pretend I'm your mirror. Arm, 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 arm. Good. Then rock a baby. Rock. Good. And then the peace sign. This means peace. And then you just put your hands on your heart. And then you do, this is the part you need room for. You do big circles. Okay? Good. And, I have some words for us, but Fred, if you want to hold these up so that you guys can see the words while I tell you. Okay, so it goes, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be safe and sound, may I be peaceful, may I be at ease, with love in my heart and all around. Okay? So everyone stand, and we're going to do this with a real person. We're just learning it, so we're not too clueless, okay? Let's try that again. And I'm sorry, Fred, that was, yeah. Well, or... Not in order. Nick, do you mind holding it one? And then if we can kind of, they're really quite easy, but, right? Katie, do you mind holding that one? Okay. Then I'll just stand in front so no one can see anyway. Okay. Okay, so go. May I be happy, may I be well, may I be safe and sound, may I be peaceful, may I be at ease, with love in my heart and all around. Good. Okay, let's try it. Let's put it up on the screen and follow her. I'll come down here so I can see too.
May I be happy, may I be well, may I be safe and sound, may I be peaceful, may I be at ease, with love in my heart and all around. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be safe and sound, may you be peaceful, may you be at ease, with love in your heart and all around. Well, you can sing your love, and you can dance your love, and you can play your love today, my love. And you can laugh your love, and you can cry your love, and you can walk your love, and you can fly your love all around. Yeah. Here we go. May I be happy, may I be well, may I be safe and sound, may I be peaceful, may I be at ease, with love in my heart and all around. Send it to someone else. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be safe and peaceful. May you be at ease with love in your heart and all around. You can sit with your love, and you can breathe with your love, and you can listen to your love. It's in your heart, my love, and you can share your love, and you can shine your love, and you can be your love, and you can spread your love all around, whole world. Sing it for everybody. May we be happy, may we be well, may we be safe and sound, may we be peaceful, may we be at ease with love in our hearts and all around. One more time. May we be happy, may we be well, may we be safe and sound, may we be peaceful, may we be at ease with love in our hearts and all around. Big circles of love. Okay, get ready, we're gonna send it out. Here goes. Some is raining back down.
And you hug yourself. Good job. Excellent job. Okay, so to introduce our speakers. The first Sunday I walked into a UU church, they were talking about Robert Fulghum, who writes the book, I brought it, All I Ever Need to Know. I learned in kindergarten, yeah. He writes that book. And I felt like I already had a friend because I'd already loved his books. They're just so simple but profound. And so it was a really good introduction to my new faith. So in his book, Fulghum says, it turns out that wisdom was not at the top of the graduate school mountain, but there in the sandpile at Sunday school. He says, these are the things I learned. Share everything. Play fair. Don't hit people. Put things back where you found them. Clean up your own mess. Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt someone. Wash your hands before you eat. Flush the toilet. Warm cookies and cold milk can be good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn some and think some. Draw, paint, sing, dance, play, and work some every day. Take a nap every afternoon. Goldfish and hamsters and even little seeds in the styrofoam cup all die, and so do we. When you go out into the world, watch for traffic, hold hands, and stick together. Fulghum says, think what a better world it would be if we all, the whole world, had cookies and milk about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then lay down with our blankies for a nap. Amen, brother. Or if governments had a basic policy to always put things back where they found them and clean up their own mess. There's an idea. And it's still true no matter how old you are, when you go out into the world, it is best to hold hands and stick together. So speaking of going out into the world, I just have a real short story to share of when I was a child and we lived in Sterling, Colorado, which gets very, very windy because they don't have the mountains to block us. So it gets really windy there on the prairie. So one very windy day, I was at school and I was in the hallway away from my class for some reason, coming back from the bathroom or speech or something. And a grown-up lady came in from outside and she said, wow, it is such a windy day. I bet this wind could blow a little tiny girl like you right up into the air and we would never see you again. I was concerned. I was very concerned. I only lived 3 blocks away, so my sister and I walked together to and from school. And it wasn't hard at that age to imagine myself just being blown up into the air, here and there, and then just like off to space, I guess, because nobody would ever see me again. So I was so scared I refused to walk home. My sister had to go home by herself and get my mom to bring the car to pick me up because I didn't know how many steps I had before this wind was going to blow me right away, but I thought, you know, the less the better. So that's a story that I remember very distinctly, and it reminds me that kids are concrete thinkers at certain ages, and as adults, we need to watch what we say, you know? So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Fred, and then our special speakers, and we will listen to Sue, Leo, Sharon, and Sherry in that order.
Not as lighthearted as Janen. What I learned as a child, I learned at a very early age about the sad reality of racial discrimination. I was very fortunate to have liberal Unitarian social worker parents, so it could be a lesson that could be learned early in life. When I was 5 or 6, my brother was 3 years older. We lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, and my father was invited to join the country club. He went inside to talk to the manager while my brother and I started playing. My father came running out of the office, waving his arms like this, and told us that we were leaving. When we got in the car, driving away, he explained to us the racial discrimination and the reality thereof. My father had asked the manager why he'd been invited, and he said, "Because you're not black." That ended the conversation. As we grew up, it was mandatory attendance of our family for any civil rights worker up to and including Martin Luther King. As a child, under 10, I was a voracious reader of civil rights books by Martin Luther King and Dick Gregory and others. So although prepared for diverse living at an early age, I've had little or no opportunity to practice it in my life. I think that I'm not alone in that respect. In school, in work, and in living, I'd never been, I've been exposed a lot to blacks, but in groups that we stayed together separately. Fort Collins is tied with everywhere else I've lived. My high school in Lincoln, Nebraska had blacks but little interaction. I was part of a group of blacks and whites in high school called the Human Relations Council. It was in the 60s, so there was affirmative efforts to try to, mend any differences between the parties. Since high school, there's only been one black who's ever attended a reunion. And that guy's attended a couple of them, but that's it. We had like 700 kids in our class, one black. So I guess we know who enjoyed high school and who didn't. I had a chance to be in a diverse situation when I moved to New York City. We moved there for 1 year when my dad had a sabbatical. I had a chance because our school was 50% black and Puerto Rican. Unfortunately, it was on the track system where the top classes were white, and then it got darker and darker and darker as you went down to non-college prepared kids. I was especially white because they had 3 special progress classes at the top, probably a total of about 60 kids in them. But those 3 classes, there was one black, and he was from Jamaica, and a lot of people don't consider that black. So, in any case, my high school had black athletes, but they stayed together. I moved to Colorado 50 years ago and spent the first 30 years in Denver, a place that's very well diversified, not by choice, but just by circumstances. In the 30 years I lived in Denver, I never lived in a neighborhood that had even one black, maybe one occasionally. I practiced law in Jefferson County, which is by the mountains, and I was there 30 years. Did not run into one black lawyer, either in government or in private practice. There was one deputy DA who was black. He was not there long, but it's the second largest judicial district in the state of Colorado after Denver. So although I've had opportunities for diversity. I really haven't. I've read some of the recent books on blacks. I've heard some of the people speak about them, but I don't know. I just feel like I know enough, and that's not the way to feel. But in any case, that's my experience as being a child. Sad but true.
Hi. So the stories that I remember as a child were told to me by my two grandmothers, not grandfathers. My grandfathers didn't like children. They didn't talk to us. They told us to go outside and play all the time. But my two grandmothers loved to tell stories. And unlike my brother and sister, I was the one that liked to sit and listen. So they told me their stories. They were very different cultures, very different experiences. I would just think, what is going on? Really, this is what happened to you? When my Scottish grandmother would tell me stories about gamboling around in the cliffs in the Highlands of Scotland and traveling through the abbeys and finding ghosts. And there was a ghost story that I loved about this woman that would float through the abbey. And she just loved to tell me stories like that. She always would tell me all those kind of occult stories because I was the only one that would listen. My maternal grandmother's stories were of depression. They were raised in the Depression. Their mother had come over, her mother had come over from Germany and took care of this. It wasn't her idea. She was summoned at 18 years old on a boat for like 3 months or something to come over to the US and took care of this terminally ill woman. She ended up dying. The man ended up marrying my great grandmother, who was 14 years her senior. They had 6 children, and guess what? He died. So she was this amazing, strong, single woman in the Depression, raising her children. I never saw her family again. My Scottish grandmother never saw her family again when her husband brought her over to the US, making her a bit of a angry woman. But anyway, they would love to tell me their stories. My sister and brother don't know these stories. If I mention them, they're like, what? And they're not even still interested. But to me, ancestral stories are just so interesting. So learning about these strong women in my DNA or whatever, and their stories did spark my imagination, and they fostered a deeper appreciation for very different cultures and the development of resilience. I love to listen to these women tell their tales, and I believe that they love the fact that I encouraged those moments. We all have stories, but do we have folks in our lives who encourage the sharing of our stories? I believe the greatest gift that we can give to another is the ability to slow down life for a little while and listen, totally listen without judgment. We all have fascinating stories just waiting to be shared. It deepens our compassion for each other. And when Oprah said this famous line she suggested once that when dealing with a person who you may totally disagree with morally, spiritually, politically, ethically, whatever, instead of saying, what's wrong with you? Instead, we say, what happened to you? And there's a story there. There's usually a story of why the anger, why the bigotry, why the hatred, or whatever. Not that we can agree with it, but we can understand it. And by sharing your experiences, we can bridge the man-made chasms we build and become a more compassionate people. So I suggest that we take someone to coffee and ask for their story.
Good morning, I'm Leo. My story is about my grandfather, Tom, who was born in Germany, grew up in the Netherlands, and then owned a woodworking shop. And as a little child, I loved going into that woodworking shop with the smell of the chips, and he would get so angry and kick us out because it was a very dangerous place. It had these big open belts that could grab little children and grind them into pieces. So my grandfather was the owner and operator with 10 employees and worked 6 days a week. On Sundays, he would do accounts receivable, accounts payable, the admin, everything. He didn't have time to go to church, but he was a really good family-loving man. He lost fingers on both hands, couple of fingers here and fingers there. And, you know, when he ordered 5 beers at the brewery, he'd go like this, 5 beers. That was a joke, he didn't do that. He didn't really drink. So the one thing he did say, though, is that I believe in miracles when these fingers go back on. Okay. So one important thing I would like to leave you with was an important thing that he taught us, me and my twin brother Tom. He says, and by the way, none of his employees ever lost any finger or were ever injured. He was so careful. So he taught us, when you work with a knife, a scissor, a chisel, anything sharp, always away from your hands, away from your body. Never go like this. So I was in my garage the other day with a big Stanley knife and getting really frustrated, and wham, gosh, and blood was spurting out, and it was horrible. And I thought about my grandfather. I said, sorry, Tom. I forgot. So here's the lesson for you, and I'm teaching this to my children, my grandchildren. When you use a sharp tool, away from you.
Hi, my name is Sharon. So I was born in 1952. So in those idyllic 50s that we hear about, not so idyllic for some people, but for us, pretty much so. My parents were both overseas during the war in the Army, so we got a VA mortgage little house in one of those little neighborhoods. It was in Cheektowaga, which is like just east of Buffalo, a very city type of suburb. And back then there were so many kids being born after the war. Every single street was like its own little neighborhood, which had, maybe 10 kids at least on each street. So we just kind of roamed around in this little gang from house to house. Even at a pretty young age, we had a lot of freedom. And we played games, we played ball games, we played board games, we roller skated, we splashed around in pools in the summertime and had snowball wars in the wintertime. And so, we were just kind of living the good life. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. She was actually a really good OR nurse, but she quit, as most women did back then, to raise her family. My dad kind of expected that. So it was great for us kids. She was always around. When we all came in the house, me and my friends, she would make us peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and there was always a big pitcher of Kool-Aid in the refrigerator. Cherry was my favorite Kool-Aid. And so, it was pretty idyllic situation. There was no TV back, well, there was. We had a little black and white TV, but it wasn't much to speak of. We didn't really watch a whole lot of TV. There weren't a lot of programs. And there were no video games or anything like that, of course. We just made up games on our own. So that's how things went in our neighborhood, and it was really nice and wonderful. And then one night, something happened that really kind of shook up my whole world. And there was a fire around the corner from us on another street. And there were the sirens and the fire engines, which we didn't see too much in our neighborhood. And everybody was, all agog over this. And the next day, my parents were very upset, very sad, very shaken up. And they finally explained to me that, yes, there had been a house fire and a baby had died in the fire. And I was like, what? What do you mean a baby died? You know, I just couldn't comprehend of a baby dying. I could comprehend of older people dying, grandparents dying. You know, that's what happened when you got old. But babies didn't die. And I just couldn't understand why nobody could do something about it. Why didn't they save the baby? Why didn't the grown-ups do something to keep this from happening? And it just really was terrible. And my parents tried to reassure me, of course, that the odds of that happening to me were extremely low, and they were. I'm still here. And told me about how safe our house was. And things kind of went back to normal after that, but I was kind of different inside. That was kind of that time when you're not so innocent anymore, when you realize that there are bad things out in the world that your parents can't really fix. And it's not something you think about all the time, but it's something that's now there that wasn't really there before, and that you have to kind of process. And you do a lot of it by yourself in your head when you're a kid, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I think to some degree it's inevitable that that will happen, that we don't talk enough to our parents and even our friends about these kind of things. But it is part of growing up, finding out that the world is different than what you imagined it to be. And little by little, as you get older and older, you start to absorb it all. But it's good to remember, I think, when you have little kids around, that there's a lot of stuff going on up in there. And they may say, oh, it's okay, everything's fine, but probably isn't. Probably isn't. So just keep talking to them.
I'm Sherry McTee. Hello, everyone. Sit clear up here in the front, but I can hear you all laughing, so that's good. How many of you remember back to the days of early television, talking about that, an Art Linkletter program? You remember that? Do you remember the sessions where kids say the darndest things, and he would have a stage level, and he'd have 4 or 5 year olds sitting in chairs, and he would ask them questions. And so many of the answers, oh, I bet it really embarrassed the parents. But my talk today is going to be about children and the things they say, and how we can foster that or remember that. And I'm going to start out with my second son, who had his own language. Have any of you had a child or a grandchild, or any little child in your life that has their own language when they start to speak? And it isn't exactly what you would expect. Stefan would came in and said, Mama, I want owie. I'm like, okay, what is an owie? And he got so mad because he was stomping his feet. I want owie. And so I opened the refrigerator, and there's the apple bag sitting there. And he goes, see, Mama, owie. So apples were owies, okay? Owies were apples, that's what I mean to say. And bowies. Oh, and here we go again. Nothing in the refrigerator. What is a bowie? I want bowie. Oh, that became a banana. Now, the big problem was that owie cooies, because that's 2 words, and I'm like, have no idea what an owie cooey is, and nothing in the refrigerator, but I had just gone shopping, and there was a box of animal crackers sitting there, and he goes, see, Mama, owie cooey. So we had owies, bowies, and owie cooies. Apples, bananas, and animal crackers. And so kids are what we hear and what they hear, and they're trying to mimic us. I had a nephew or cousin who kept saying to his parents, they lived on the coast, and he'd say, KPO sat in Soto, KPO sat in Soto, when they were in the car. And they're like, what is KPO sat in Soto? Well, one day they turned the dial of the radio and it's KPO, San Francisco. And the other one was Ning Ning Wabu, Ning Ning Wabu. And he'd get so unhappy if it couldn't make him understand. And that was drink, drink water, Ning Ning Wabu. So they do make up their own words, and we have to learn to understand them. The second son, or the first son, this is such an interesting story because he was about 2.5, and we lived in a little apartment with a table right by the window, and there was a 5x7 picture of the two of us sitting there on the table. And I said to him, "Look, Darren, there's Mama and Darren." And he goes, "Darren," no, he goes, "Mama, shall we?" I went, "Mama, shall we?" And so he kept saying he was "shall we." People would say, "Hi, little boy, what's your name?" And he would say, "Shall we?" And I'm like, where is this coming from? And so finally, I started really listening to what I said to him. And I would say, "Okay, Darren, let's take a bath now, shall we? Let's go see Daddy, shall we? Let's go visit Grandma, shall we?" And everything I said to him was "shall we?" So that's where that came from. His aunt bought him a little peanut shirt. You know who Peanut is? Little Peanut character? And they had stamped on here, "shall we?" So when he was 2 and 3, he had a little Peanut shirt that said "shall we?" I still have that. It's this teeny little thing. Then years later, he got engaged, and the same aunt and uncle gave him a sweatshirt. And because he was getting married, it said "shall we?" ? So the "shall we" thing has kind of gone on and on. And the same little boy, I love listening to my children, all the little nursery rhymes, and we'd sit out on the porch or anywhere, and I'd sing to them. And one time, my oldest son said, when he was just like this, "Mama, sing Sandy Mouse." I'm like, "Okay, here we go again," right? Oh, yes. Sing Sandy Mouse. Oh, that is a difference. Okay. Shall I start over? No. And I'm like, what is Sandy Mouse? Well, a few days later, I'm singing "Rockabye Baby." Do you know that has a second verse? It's, "Hush, be still as any mouse. There's a baby in the house. Not a dolly, not a toy, but a little baby boy." Well, when I got to "Hush, be still as any mouse," I said, "Hush, be still as any mouse." He goes, "See, Mama, see, Sandy Mouse, Sandy Mouse." So I'm sure all of you could come up here and talk about things your children or your grandchildren say that are so funny. They grow up and they have a language that you can understand, and then they continue to say things that amaze you sometimes. My granddaughter, who lives here, was riding in the back seat of the car, and she says, "Nana," she says, "is it true that if you're bad, Santa leaves you a bag of rocks?" And I look in the rearview mirror, and she's serious. And I said, "Well, I don't know for sure. I suppose maybe it could be." And she gets this really concerned on her face and looks down, and she goes, "Good thing I like rocks." And then my oldest granddaughter wanted to be a garbage man. A garbage man. We were saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? A garbage man. Really? Why would that be? Because you only have to work 1 day a week. And then the granddaughter that lives here, Avery, said, "You know, I would like mustard so much better if it was blue." Whatever. But the crowning glory, I think, that I'm going to end with for what they've said is my daughter was sitting at the lunch table at their house with her son, Grayson, across the table, and they were having lunch. And she decided that it was time to tell him that he was going to have a little sister. And so she said, "Grayson, Mommy has a special thing to tell you. You're going to have, in a few months, you're going to have a little sister." And he just kind of said, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "Where is she?" And she goes, "Well, right now she's all safe in mommy's tummy." How many times do we say, put it in your tummy? He says, "Mommy, you ate a baby?" So, that was a good one. I'm just going to finish with a simple poem called Firstborn, because when you think back to the children that are in your life or have been in your life or will be in your life, that firstborn one is always so special, and yet it extends to each one that comes after that. So firstborn. When the birthing was over and they placed him in your arms, there was no blueprint, no map, nor any set of instructions. You must go deep inside and draw from the well of your soul. All that you know of patience, whatever you can collect of imagination, and everything you ever believed of love. You must hold it all in a sacred place in your heart, and then give it to him gently, one need at a time. You must believe with all your might there will be no emptying the reservoir of your absolute adoration or your unconditional love. That's it. Okay.
And now for the half-plate offertory. The nomination forms are in the back. The Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition will receive our half-plate for June and July, or for July and August. CIRC is a statewide membership-based coalition, immigrant, faith, labor, youth, community, business, and ally organization founded in 2002 to improve the lives of immigrants and refugees by making Colorado a more welcoming, immigrant-friendly state. Immigration rights is one of the priorities of the Namakwa Social Justice Committee Ministry. More information will be forthcoming in August. While we pass the plate, Andrea will play my favorite things. I shouldn't have tried to undo my mistake.
Afterwards, yeah, we'll call you up. Sure, thanks, Peter.
bring the blessing forward, or the place forward? Okay, that's okay. We dedicate ourselves to these our blessed offerings, to the vision of this congregation, which is to radiate love, peace, and justice, as together we work to build a beloved community.
We'll go ahead and just do the chalice extinguishing before the closing song. We had it in reverse order. But Sophia Foss, who's a big name in religious education, you might have heard of her, was teaching a Sunday school class for kids about different religions and different ways of viewing God. And one little girl piped up and said, "To me, God is just everything that grows." The more I think about that definition, I tell you what, the more I think we could get a whole room full of PhD philosophers and give them a whole week to come up with a better one, and I think they'd struggle. From the mouth of babes. God is what grows. God is what expands us. What is not God constricts us. And there's the divine in each one of us. And if we're smart, we continue to grow. Whether we have to look back to figure out the way or look forward, we continue to grow. If we allow it, the child in us can remind us to be filled with wonder and delight, presence and love. The child within can remind us to play, to see the beauty all about us, and use our imaginations and joy to make this a better world. As Sarah York said, "Give us the spirit of the child who is not afraid to need," and that includes other people, who is not afraid to love. And Andrea will sing our closing song. You can stand.
We need to be free, not just to
Thank you all for coming, and we just have a few announcements. This Monday on Zoom and this Wednesday at 10 o'clock is the meditation and mindfulness class that you're all invited to. It's an open group. It's a wonderful group, and we have so much fun and so much deep, deep discussion. It has transformed my life, so you're all invited. And then next week, Fred?
We have our at Mahaffey Park at 10 a.m. potluck to follow. It's our gay rights picnic and celebration of LGBTQ.
So we're in the park next week. It's not a potluck. Okay. Thank you so much. I told you wrong, Fred.
Oh, okay.
That was mine. That was on me. Okay, a brown bag after the Pride celebration. Good to know. Mahaffey Park?
And tell your neighbors, I mean, it's not just for us, we are things to require here, but just how it's family friendly, there's going to be things for kids to do. If there's anybody that feels like they would like to contribute or come to our Pride celebration, they're definitely welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, Sue. And Peter had an announcement as well. Thank you, Peter. Okay. Anyone else? Any other announcements we should? Open mic night when, Kate? Kat? This Friday at 6:30. And the doors open a little before that. Okay. I think that's all that I know. So you're all dismissed to coffee hour, and thank you so much for your participation. Thank you to my speakers and the kids.